All right, all right. We are back at the Grit Won't Quit podcast studio in Belmont, New Jersey. We have a very special guest on. We have Chelsea Olsen. She's a Long Island gal, so she grew up not too far from where I grew up. So it was great to connect with her through LinkedIn, and then we have been trying to get her on the podcast. At one point, she was going to be crazy enough to drive down to the Jersey Shore, but we figured let's do a virtual. Chelsea, good morning. How are you today?
Good. I'm glad I could have this chat with you finally.
Finally. Excellent. So let everybody know what you do, how you do it, and then we can get into how you got started and everything like that.
Absolutely. So I own a company called CLOHZ. We are a B2B sales training company that helps teams leverage LinkedIn branding, cold outreach to build their pipeline and close more deals. That's pretty much it. I'm also big on LinkedIn, so some people might have seen me on there.
Now, first of all, you're in a sales dominated world, and who's the ideal target that you're going after? What type of company is really like your sweet spot to train?
So my sweet spot is training companies that are in B2B. So they're doing something where they're selling a service or a product to another business. There's a large enough sales team there to bring me on. So, typically like employee size, anywhere 50 is a little small, but 50 to 200 employees is probably my bare minimum.
Perfect. And then there's companies out there like Sandler Sales Training, and there's other sales training. How do they differ from what you offer and your product set and your secret sauce?
That's a great question. So for those companies, I feel like they're very focused on teaching people how to sell once the meeting is already there. So what to say to a prospect, how to close a deal. My clients are actual experts when it comes to sales. They don't need me telling them how to close a deal. They are product experts, service experts. They sometimes have titles like a solutions engineer, sales engineer. I don't need to come in there and tell somebody how to sell when they've been doing this for 20 years. But what I do need to show people is how things have changed a bit today when it comes to building a pipeline, mainly getting meetings and connecting with today's buyer, because it has changed dramatically from when I started 20 years ago, and the old way of doing things is just broken. So I go in and I teach them how to generate that pipeline. Then it's up to them to close. If they want some help, they ask me, but that is not what I am currently focused on.
So you help them hunt for new leads.
I help the companies do a bunch of things. So one is fixing their digital presence, because buyers today are very well researched. They're not just going to get a cold call or an email and say, yeah, let me take 30 minutes of my day and book a call with someone. They just don't want to do that. They'll go do their own research. So the first thing you need to do is fix the digital presence. And a lot of these companies, like I said, they're really good at sales. They're great at closing deals, but they don't understand how the buyer journey changed. And I'm really focused on teaching them how that buyer journey changed, how they can fix their online presence, mainly making things very clear, communicating clearly to a distracted, overwhelmed buyer. And then from there, teaching them how to do a mix of push and pull when it comes to driving leads. But a big focus is on cold outreach, because that's how you get meetings. That hasn't changed.
So you think cold outreach still works?
No, it does still work. I have the data to prove it. Again, you just have to make sure that when you're reaching out, that you're very clear in your communication and you're getting to the point quickly and landing the plane. So I like to say, you have to make sure that when you get the attention of a potential prospect or buyer, that you support them in their journey when they do their own research. So that means fixing any type of LinkedIn landing pages, content that's on their website content. Clarity is key, and that is honestly a big thing companies are missing today.
So now just so that the audience can kind of get an idea on this, what do you think the rate of how much cold outreach you have to do before you start seeing a prospect interested? It's like, is it 1 to
really
100?
depends. Yeah,
Okay.
it's really hard to say. It's not, you can't spam people. Those days
Mm-hmm.
are over. I did that for a little too, of course. This agency was actually a done for you lead gen agency at one point. A portion of it was.
Uh-huh.
But it depends. It depends on your niche. It depends on if you have people that are selling with personal brands. It depends on so many different factors. I could tell you for me, so easy, because I have a personal brand and I have the skills to start conversations with anyone. And I leverage LinkedIn specifically to start a lot of conversations. Cold calling, cold email gets harder, but LinkedIn is definitely a warmer environment and it makes it a little bit more simple.
The hard part for me on LinkedIn, I get hit with so many inquiries. Like people hit my DM on LinkedIn all day long with something, the next greatest thing.
Yeah. But that's not what we do. We don't spam people. We don't send long messages. There's a whole formula that I've developed and baked out over 8 years and refined, and it doesn't include any of that. Actually,
Good.
when people do that to me, I sometimes will give them free advice, but
That's funny.
I try not to waste my time anymore. But yeah, you can't spam people.
Yeah, like again, there are times where I've asked somebody for more information, but then they'll follow up with you 17 times. It's like if I'm interested, I'll follow back up. Like I feel like they're just aggressive on the sales side of that.
It's automation.
Yeah.
So, it's just automating, it's spraying and praying, and they'll get a couple responses out of it if they hit on a pain point. There's always someone ready to buy.
Yep. Definitely.
But it doesn't convert. I mean, I can reach out to 10 people and book 4 or 5 meetings very easily.
Mm-hmm.
But don't use that as a standard, right? Like typically it's still cold outreach. Reach out to, it depends too how active they are, but let's say you reach out to 100 people who are active on LinkedIn, you might get 20 responses, you might get 10 booked meetings, maybe less, could be 2. It's more important that you have qualified meetings than just random meetings.
Sure. So 8 years ago you started this company, but before that you said you've been in this business for 20 years. So how did you get into, first how did you get into this 20 years ago, and then why 8 years ago did you decide to go out on your own and start doing this?
20 years ago I needed money and I was in college and paying for a lot of things. Like I was one of those few college kids that had to pay their own rent and had to pay for their car and all that. So I started, my first sales job was at a gym, and I quickly became the sales manager, which looking back is crazy. Who trusts an 18, 19-year-old girl to be the sales manager?
You showed up every day, you made some sales, you were the sales manager.
It was crazy. No, it was so weird. So we did that for a bit, and then I went into doing door-to-door alarm sales. Yeah, so I did that for a while.
This was on Long Island, the door-to-door?
No, this is in the South. I went to school down South. Yeah. And that worked. I made some decent cash selling the alarm systems for the houses. And then when I got out of school, I had a finance degree, and I went into banking and financial sales, and I did that for a long time. And then I was consulting as well on the side, and I actually owned another agency. So I owned an experiential marketing and promotional modeling agency for years as well. I've always had like a full-time job and then a company, because you need different channels of revenue. I never would just be safe with one.
So then when did you decide that it was time to go out on your own?
Well, again, like always had, I've always been having a side business and, doing that. In 2017, I started CLOHZ kind of on accident. I explained before this call, but I was in a new role. I had taken actually a couple years off with the birth of my first daughter. And when I went back to work, it was so hard. Like I couldn't commute to the city anymore. Like I just didn't want to do that. And it was really hard to re-enter the workforce, to be honest with you. So I was offered a position as the head of business development for an ad agency. It was a completely different industry, completely different audience. I didn't have any connections there. Took the job. I developed this playbook that I use now. It's a bit different. Obviously, it's been 8 years, but I had my playbook. I implemented it because they brought me in and they said, bring in 1 million of deals. And I was like, 1 million of closed deals. Like, I don't know anything about what you even do. But I used my playbook, started doing outreach, and realized how well it worked. Started teaching other people, and now here we are.
That's awesome. And now in that first year, did you get the 1 million?
No. And that's the one thing I love to tell people. No, I did not.
It's awesome that you're honest about it. You could have very easily said you got the 1 million, and I would never been able to validate that. So
no, The funny thing is, like, when I took that job, I'm like, where did they come up with this revenue target? As in any sales job, right? When they tell you what the goal is, you're like, how did you come up with this? Well, their average deal size was like 25,000. So when I got in there and started digging, I'm like, how many new clients do you get a year? Two? Okay, so how are we getting to 1 million?
Yeah.
It took a lot of time, but then when I implemented the playbook on different companies that had their shit together, like a little bit more.
Yep.
Bigger deal sizes, it became apparent how effective this was.
That's great. Now, for most of these B2B services, you said they're larger in company size, 50 to 200 and larger.
Yes.
And how many sales guys or sales professionals are at some of the companies that you're training for? Like, they have a pretty decent sales team.
Yeah, they can have at least 50 people in the sales team. I've done, obviously I've done smaller teams, especially if it's a team that's brand new, like a startup. They
Hmm.
can only be 4 or 5 people.
Yep. And you
Yeah.
like working for that smaller organization, or?
I enjoy it. That I've gotten beat up in the startup world, as I think anyone has, because they run out of money. They don't have money. So it is a hard world, but it's best when you can get in early and help them craft the messaging
Hmm.
and help them define how they want to communicate with their buyers and understand their buyers and do all of that research with them, because then they're starting from a clear foundation and they're able to build from something that's sturdy and get deals going pretty quickly.
That's great. And now, do most companies bring you on for like a set period of time, or do a lot of people use you ongoing? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I typically will come in for a couple months to do the training and the enablement. The branding doesn't take that long. I've worked in this space for years. I've seen brand agencies charge 50K and take 3 months to do branding. It's ridiculous. I could do it in 2 weeks. When it comes to the training, it depends on the team. I've done workshops. I've done 1 or 2 day workshops, but typically my 6C sales method takes about 6 weeks. I like to stay with the team where we can do one module a week, give them space to implement, give them time to ask questions and absorb the content. They need a daily prospecting plan in place. So building that out and building those habits and driving accountability, that takes a little bit of time. So it's 6 to 8 weeks is
Do you want
fast.
to explain what the 6 C's are, or?
Yeah. So the 6 C's is a sales method I developed. Just needed to coin the methodology I had been using for all the years that I've
I
been
like
doing
it.
it. Yeah. So number one is clarity, just creating clear profiles, clear messaging. Number two is creating lists, so curating lists on LinkedIn or Zoom Info or whatever tool they want to use. But I do make sure that every single client has Sales Navigator and we can pull lists in there because there's specific ways we pull them based on commonalities.
Hmm.
Three is commenting, where I teach the team how to do community engagement and to engage the right way on social and LinkedIn so we can leverage some social selling into the sales plan. Four is starting conversations. So that's really important in today's environment, not just spamming and asking for meetings, but how do we start conversations with our buyers today? And that is a question that I answer in that module. And then five is cold outreach. So really looking to leverage cold email, not just doing LinkedIn outreach, LinkedIn DMs, but cold email, cold calling if necessary, and even doing things like direct mail when it makes sense, or event invites. And the last one is content, and content's huge. That one could be a longer term retainer, a deeper training. Some clients do keep me on retainer. I've been on retainer for years, but the content piece is definitely the hard part and the most overlooked part by sales.
When you say content, are you talking
Yeah.
about creating content on social media?
Yeah, having content that's available for your buyers to consume before they ever speak to you. So, case studies, educational content, personal branded content, living on LinkedIn profiles of the person that's doing the outreach. So, Tom, if you were doing outreach, you would need to have specific content on your LinkedIn page that resonates with the buyer, that helps them make their decision of whether they want to talk to you or not. And then also the LinkedIn business page, the page of the company you work for,
Hmm.
and then the website, which, by the way, is not that important these days. You really just need a clear headline and subheadline on that, and maybe some case studies.
Yep. And now, do you help them write out and build out the case studies?
I do. I help them write out everything: headlines, subheadlines, case studies, key content pillars, introduction posts, services posts, all of that. The thing is with LinkedIn, people get in the weeds and they feel like they need to go viral or have all this viral content. They don't. They just need good content for the buyer.
Fair. That's a well thought out way to go about it. I think that's great. I think a lot of people do try to go viral, and it's not always the buyer that's the people that are watching that then.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't really work with individuals, but I've just had some people in my network and they have over 100,000 followers and they struggle to make money. And I'm like, how? And then I get in there, I'm like, let me just teach you a little bit because, I made most of my money before I ever even posted anything. But I just, because I did sales. And then in 2023, I was like, whoa, I really need some content here because I'm missing this key piece to the sales journey. But that was the only reason I did it.
Yeah. Now, I believe you said earlier you have a school community too?
Yeah, I have a community on the school where I teach individuals 6Cs and I have a bunch of free trainings in there. It's all free.
Awesome. So what is your school handle, so if anybody's looking to get into that?
I could drop it. It's CLOHZ.
All right.
Wait, I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Perfect.
Like coffees for
Just so
closers?
yeah, we'll put it in when we release the
Yeah.
podcast. We'll put it in so that anybody that's in that individual
Yeah.
sales model could join and learn some of the things that you're teaching.
Yeah.
What?
Anyone who's trying to sell anything or grow their following and do marketing, it's a good starting point.
Awesome. Now, what's the plan for the future and expansion now that you have sounds like you have a great model in place, and how do you see that changing with AI?
We implement a lot of AI, we always have. So continue to leverage that. And who knows where that's going? I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
For me, obviously working with these companies is great, but I want to shift a bit more into the one-to-many approach where I could have a little bit more of digital products and I can support more people, just that everyday person who's trying to become a solopreneur, wants to start their own agency, or is in sales for a company and maybe isn't getting that training that they need or the tools and the enablement from the company, right, from corporate. So building out the school community is definitely a focus. I'm going to be refilming some trainings and being able to offer a little bit more support to individuals.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more solopreneurs and smaller businesses that are popping up. I think as some of the bigger companies are laying off, we're going to see an increase in solopreneurs. So there's probably an opportunity for you to hit that market pretty good.
Yeah, that's a true point. Everyone's fractional these days. Once they get laid off, they're just like, well, now I'm a fractional CRO.
Yeah, right. So, and then they get an LLC and they're in business. So,
Yeah.
And I think these days it's easier than ever to get into business, to jump in and try something out and see what they can do and pivot along the way.
Absolutely. It's always worth trying. And I always say, don't quit the day job, get the side hustle going. When the side hustle outperforms the income on the day job, then you could switch over.
Exactly. I agree. I think that's a great way for people to start to think about 2025 and beyond, because I think also in some of these big companies you're going to see a shift, and you're going to see Wall Street wants to see certain things with AI, and and headcount can be beat up because of it.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
I mean, you're seeing so many layoffs, right?
Yeah. Right now it's crazy.
But you might be cutting the bloat too. A lot of the bigger companies always overemploy.
I agree with you, and I think that this is a good time you could use it. Big companies can use AI as the reason of a layoff, where it's not totally the reason of the layoff, but they can get away with it and skate by, and it's hard to argue. I mean, and again, like I say, the news wants to hear and report on specific things.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I actually agree with you that there's a lot of people that are just not pulling their weight, and they were scared. HR is very scared to fire anybody. It's very hard to get fired, I feel like. So this is a good reason.
Yeah, HR and the employee, they always want to, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you,
right?
Did you, and again, everybody's nervous. So, again, you use layoff, you pay the severance and you move on.
Yeah.
But long term, they're bound. They're.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna like I said, like we use so much AI. We always have. And as a small agency, I prefer to automate as much as possible. I have a
Yep.
very small team. Yeah.
Yep. And now, do you work out of an office, or do you work from home, or what's your?
I work from home.
You like
That
it?
was my one life goal.
Yep.
Even back in like 2010, I was like, my goal is to work from home in leggings.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
and it's working out for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Excellent. So this was great. I'm glad that we got to do this finally, and I want to let people know how they can find you online on your LinkedIn, and I know the school will get that address after.
Yeah. So just go to Chelsea Olsen on LinkedIn. My company's name is CLOHZ, CLOHZ.
That's a great way to spell it too.
It's just like a funky way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. This was great. I want you to have a great weekend, and we will continue. We'll be in touch, and like I say, send me that link for school, and we'll get that posted.
Perfect. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Have a great day.